Dude, the far-right pro-Israel groups are getting out of control lately. Now, it's bad enough that they were making excuses for a far-right regime that's not even popular within their own country, that's doing a genocide on a neighboring country and its people, arguably one motivated by the goal of ethnic cleansing, and obviously the goal of annexation of territory that does not belong to Israel. That was already one thing, right? That was already bad enough. But now some of these pro-Israel groups are obviously trying to go on these big campaigns slandering anybody who criticizes Israel, and I mean criticizes it, as an anti-Semite. Let's be clear, there's a big difference between calling for the destruction of Israel and calling Israel genocidal for being genocidal. But of course, it is the prerogative of excusers of genocide to make excuses for it, and of course to try and pin some kind of blame or deflect onto those that call it out. You know, the people who call it out are their biggest enemy. And so, this one pro-Israel lobbying group, put together an anti-Semite of the year list, where people who are members of the site could vote on who they believe is the biggest anti-Semite of the year. I know that is it's a very interesting topic to vote on, but you'd think that this list would be loaded up with people like Nick Fuentes and whatnot, but no. In fact, the person who won, of all people, was the popular children's entertainer, msrachel, because she has expressed pro-Palestine, or I should say empathetic to Palestinian positions in the past. And this story, I've tried to keep myself from being too spoiled on it, but apparently it's really fucking goofy. So I thought we'd go ahead and dive in. Philip DeFranco apparently did a good job of covering it, so I thought we'd go ahead and dive in and watch his coverage. He does a good job with these things. Now, if you end up enjoying my video, be sure to leave a like and a comment down below. Subscribe and ring the bell icon if you want to see more from me. And hype the video. If you have commented enough on my stuff in the past to unlock the hype button, it really does help in the algorithm. If you don't know what to comment, by the way, comment msrachel is cool, I guess, because I'm assuming she is not, in fact, anti-Semitic just for being empathetic towards Palestinians. So comment down below, msrachel is cool. And let's hop right into it without any further ado.
msrachel was just crowned one of the most anti-Semitic people of 2025. And if you're like, wait, msrachel, the one who wears overalls and sings educational songs for kids, that one? Yes, that one. Because a group called Stop Antisemitism just released the top 10 finalists for its Anti-Semite of the Year award. And msrachel, well, she was among the contenders that people can vote.
Dude, there's something so fucking just decrepit about a group calling itself Stop Antisemitism and attaching itself to such a horrendous ideology. Like, in fact, attaching itself to an ideology that so blatantly has been, like, invoking anti-Semitism and radicalizing people into anti-Semitism. The lack of ability for American politicians to criticize Israel is lending credence to insane anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists who use Israel as a catch-all for Jews. And meanwhile, you've got this Stop Anti-Semitism group labeling msrachel, the second biggest anti-Semite of the year, not number one. They gave Tucker Carlson the number one spot for interviewing Nick Fuentes. Okay, so to be fair, by extension, they basically gave number one spot to Nick Fuentes. But msrachel, literally for no other reason than empathy for Palestinians. That makes her the anti-Semite. This does not do a good job of not backing up the case that many people on the radical side of the anti-Israel movement side take, that Israel itself is just purely evil and shouldn't exist. You know, like the idea that being empathetic towards Palestinians in any way is anti-Semitic in Israel's view is not a good look for Israel.
For, joined by the likes of Tucker Carlson, an MMA fighter who defended Hitler, a right-wing creator who denied the Holocaust, and then also a few actresses who have spoken in support of Gaza amid the war. You know, msrachel, she's done that herself, right? While her primary content is for children, she has frequently used her social media platforms to speak up for kids around the world, especially in Gaza. And even though msrachel has gotten a lot of criticism for this, she has repeatedly stood her ground and said that she would continue to try to help children there.
I just put myself in the parents' shoes, and every child in Gaza is somebody's world. There's a great quote from a Jewish text that every life is a universe. They are everything to us. I have very strong morals and values. Write articles, attack me. I know who I am, God knows who I am. I'm here to serve children, and I will.
Damn, I can see why conservatives hate her so much. She is the actual archetype that conservatives want to pretend they are. Conservatives want to be simultaneously the big, tough, mean, no blood from a stone, edgy, confrontational types, while also being the ones who champion kindness, generosity, compassion, and everything that Jesus stands for. They don't realize how their movement cannot be both things at once, and so when they see someone like this on the other side of the issue, who is so openly and unapologetically everything they want to make people think they are, at least part of their branding, they can't stand it. Oh my gosh, this must be triggering the fuck out of them.
Not back down.
Right, and with that, it should be noted she's talked about kids from everywhere. Kids in Gaza, kids in Israel. With caring for kids really just being her primary concern, she's constantly posted about how no child, no matter where they are, should worry about hunger, bombing, illness, or conflict. Well, there were, people who supported this list, and Miss Rachel being on it. It also, it received a ton of backlash. You had politicians like Representative Ro Khanna weighing in, saying Miss Rachel is a preschool teacher who speaks up for starving children in Gaza, and saying that is not anti-Semitism. I hope thousands will join me in standing up for her. Also, others saying things like Miss Rachel is one of the kindest humans in public life who has preached nothing but love for all children everywhere, and saying she hasn't uttered a cruel word toward anyone, let alone anti-Semitism, and saying this absolute garbage sets back the fight against anti-Semitism. Right, and with all this,
and what that's exactly right. What a lot of these people don't realize, I guess, I don't even know what I mean by these people in this case, because the people behind this group are definitely malicious and they know what they're doing, but well-meaning Zionists, for however many of them there exist out there. And when I use the term Zionist here, I more so mean Israeli nationalist. That's typically how the term Zionist is used nowadays. If you believe that Israel should not be glassed, that makes you a Zionist by definition. So when I say this, know that I basically mean Israeli nationalist. The Israeli nationalist position is so intertwined with these anti-Semitism rhetoric groups that we've been seeing all over the place lately, that the right, the far right, the Nazi side of the right, has been using their rhetoric about how criticizing Israel is anti-Semitism to lend credence to otherwise insane, unbelievable conspiracy theories. Nick Fuentes' current rise in popularity is due in large part to the fact that the rest of the right is not willing to say the quiet part out loud when it comes to Israel. They're not willing to say what, frankly, everyone knows is the case, which is that, fucking hell. Y'all know Netanyahu was so unpopular when he got elected that the biggest riots and protests in Israel's history happened in the streets of its capital and major cities, right? Even in Israel, Netanyahu and his administration aren't that popular. So when you've got broader America, of course people are not exactly cheering and excited about billions of US tax dollars going to support this far-right regime that commits genocide and calls anyone who criticizes it anti-Semitic. And then, of course, people who are off-put by that regime being called anti-Semitic, it might start to radicalize them towards people who have been lambasted as anti-Semitic in the past, and otherwise they might not have given them the time of day, like Nick Fuentes. But now that they've been lambasted as anti-Semitic for simply having empathy for those who are victims of a genocide, now they look at Nick Fuentes and they're like, oh, maybe this guy isn't so bad. If they call me anti-Semitic for caring about Gazans, then surely Nick Fuentes might not be that bad. I should give him a look. A lot of people are thinking that way.
So you had tons of people outraged that not only someone like Miss Rachel made the list, but someone like Nick Fuentes, he wasn't on it. So you had some saying this illustrates perfectly that groups like this don't actually care about anti-Semitism at all. And others saying, including a beloved childhood educator on an anti-Semite of the year list, along with actual Jew haters, and leaving out Nick Fuentes, shows the hypocrisy of accounts like Stop Anti-Semitism. Saying when we conflate condemnation of Israeli policies with anti-Semitism, we risk minimizing the work of actually stopping anti-Semitism. So with that, you had the group kind of addressing this backlash, saying, hey, Nick Fuentes made the list in prior years and they didn't want to use him again, right? And then saying they stand by.
Wait, why would they not use him again? He's more popular now than he's ever been. This is the number one time where it makes sense to re-add Nick Fuentes to the number one anti-Semite of the year list. I like how people literally elected Tucker Carlson as the number one spot anyway because he recently interviewed Nick Fuentes. They voted for Nick Fuentes out of by proxy, essentially.
By their choice to nominate Miss Rachel. With that, I will say not the most surprising move from this group, which actually previously asked the DOJ to investigate whether or not Miss Rachel was spreading propaganda on behalf of Hamas. Also, the Washington Post did a report last year noting that the group had been accused of doxing people that I believe made anti-Israel or anti-Semitic statements.
Jesus Christ, this group is out of control. We talked about Israel interest groups in America in the past, and unfortunately there's a lot of misinformation or not even misinformation, just I feel like misunderstandings. Like, for instance, a lot of people think that AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, they assume that that is an Israeli money group, and that is like Israeli money paying American politicians for influence in favor of Israel. That's not exactly true. AIPAC is a massive donor group. That is to say, it's a group of I think thousands and thousands of different donors, many of them wealthy, some of them being working class people, all of them American. It's an American political group, all of them being pro-Israel. And they all donate out of their own pockets to a organization who then uses that combined funding to leverage political influence in Washington. So it's not so much that Israel is using their wealth and their money to influence our politics. At least they probably are, but they're not doing it through AIPAC, at least not in any provable way, evidentiarily speaking. What is definitely happening, though, is that Americans who are super pro-Israel, who have money, are getting together and are collectively grassroots funding immense amounts of money in order to fund Israeli interests. And so a good example of said Israeli interests that have been funded in the past and what that money's been put towards during the last election, AIPAC dedicated something like, it was like hundreds of millions of dollars or something like that. It was like something crazy, dude. Dedicated to trying to get the squad out of office. They were running attack ads on all the members of the squad because they were all so critical of Israel. And I think, I'm going to be honest, I would not be surprised if AIPAC and other influence groups were behind paying paid actors to harass figures like AOC. You know how AOC has been one of the most loud and outspoken critics of Israel and our government? You know how there's like every once in a while a video will come out of some people like marching behind her on the street with megaphones demanding that she denounce Israel? And she'll ignore them as they like follow her down the street. It's happened several times at this point, and it's like, she has denounced Israel the loudest of anyone in our government. How could you, like, are these just crazy lefties? I would not be surprised if they were in fact paid actors meant to harass her and act as psyops, because it's bizarre. But yeah, AIPAC and other Israeli interest groups have had a strong interest in trying to take down AOC and other progressive figures with any amount of a platform who criticize Israel.
But then, as far as msrachel herself, while she hasn't publicly responded to this inclusion on the list, just a few weeks ago she did respond to this general criticism, writing, "Antisemitism is rising, and it's real, and we need to address it and prevent it." But then adding, "Saying people are anti-Semitic because they care about Palestinians is wrong and absurd. It has kept people silent and has caused more death of kids and innocent people. It's caused a genocide to continue. And saying accusing people of being paid by Hamas for caring about Palestinians is serious and makes no sense. I have the most beautiful community around me of Jewish people who care so deeply about Palestinians and are working every day to help." And so, with this news, and really,
like, it's so obvious there's an Israeli government-sponsored ideological goal that some have to, like, erase and downplay the atrocities committed against the Palestinians by Israel. And they're, unfortunately, for themselves and for Jewish people in America, all they're doing is helping anti-Semitic grifters make themselves look legitimate. Like, how many, like, at this point, everybody realizes something is up. Everybody realizes something is wrong when children are dying in numbers that are unprecedented. When, if a fraction of the children dying in Gaza were dying anywhere else in the world, news media would be all over it. There would be pins and stickers and all that to show support. It would be a whole thing to come out and show support for the victims of genocide. If it was anywhere else in the world, any other group in the world, I feel like, maybe some exceptions, but in the case of Palestinians and with Israel, for some reason, it is the biggest no-no in the world to even question the IDF and Israel's actions in Gaza. And if you do it, you're immediately labeled an anti-Semite. That is the kind of thing that radicalizes people. That is basically playing into all of the crazy conspiracy narratives about how you're not allowed to talk about this or you're not allowed to talk about that. That's just doing the thing that conspiracy theorists allege without any evidence under normal circumstances, but doing it unironically. That's what this is. That's what they're doing.
anything that stands out to you. I'd love to know your thoughts, opinions, and reactions, but I just have to add mine here to the people that think that Miss
Hell
Rachel
yeah.
is anti-Semitic, even deserving of Anti-Semite of the Year. Are you crazy or fucking stupid? Is it a little of both? What is the split? What is wrong with your brain? This group or this person or whoever the hell's behind it and the people supporting it, do you realize you're making things worse? Like, do you realize that conflating what Miss Rachel is doing with actual anti-Semitism, which is out there and exists and is growing, makes people dismiss that very real threat? You're being the boy who cried wolf, and Miss Rachel ain't the wolf with the wolf.
It's wild, too, of all people they could pick to put in second place, man. Miss Rachel. Like, the most wholesome, like, cuddly, ooh-woo content creator, public figure out there. I don't know how else to describe her. Like, she's just so inoffensive and innocent and makes content that is just genuinely kind and good. She's like Mr. Rogers or Bob Ross, you know? Like, if Bob Ross was alive today, I'm sure he would have tweeted something about the atrocities that are being committed against Palestinians. And maybe he would have been on the list. I guarantee you Mr. Rogers would have said something. I bet Mr. Rogers would have been on the list. There's no one who can convince me otherwise. Not many people know about Sudan, though. I have talked about Sudan, yeah. My video about it got like 400 views in a day, though. It got super suppressed by YouTube. That or people just weren't interested enough for it to get pushed to the people in my sub base that were interested. But yeah, I made multiple vids about Sudan. They did very poorly, so not a lot of people watched them. I'm not surprised you guys didn't know, but yeah, they were good videos according to the people who did see them.
Wolves out there, they're growing their pack. And also, by being this ridiculous, you don't even realize the other stuff you're fueling. You being a dumbass about things like what's happening with Miss Rachel, it adds to the reason that the people that win this award sometimes wear it with honor, with pride. Nick Fuentes was tweeting, why wasn't I nominated? Candace Owens won last year. She wears it as a badge of honor, and her audience mostly loves her for it. Because when you conflate criticisms of what Netanyahu is doing or what Israel's doing in Gaza or anything like that to anti-Semitism, it degrades any of your other arguments. But anyway, I know after doing this for like 20 years, you can't fix stupid. The questions I'm asking, maybe, I guess they're probably rhetorical. So I guess maybe the note to end on is actually a thank you for being so stupid that you've kind of united people on the left and right of knowing and thinking that you're stupid. Right, but then next up in the news, let's talk about this dumpster fire.
Dude, come on, chill. Yeah, dude, what's so wild to me about this as well is that, like, even Philip DeFranco, and I'm not saying this is like a hit on Philip DeFranco, you know, he's just not a super politically engaged guy. He's more of a news guy and tries to stay a little middle of the road on things. But even he's just like, bro, how are you gonna do this? This is the kind of thing that's gonna piss off both sides too, because right now the sort of hyper-Zionist, conservative, traditionalist right is dying off and being replaced by the far-right, populist Nazi side of things. Like the alt-right is taking over the old right and just becoming the new right. And like this, like any kind of maligning someone for any level of critique of Israel doesn't even fly for conservatives anymore. Like, not even the far right is going to jump on board with attacking Miss Rachel just because, what, she's progressive on some things? Like, the fact that she is an Israel critic in some way, they're just gonna say based. And like Philip DeFranco said, the idea that an Israeli group would call a public figure who is a Nazi anti-Semitic to those people is just a badge of honor. Like, you're just handing them a W in their worldview, okay? 170 viewers, brutal? I know, right, man? YouTube does not like my channel these days.
Stated workers who were suspended for...
Or maybe I have fallen off. Who knows? It's impossible to tell. Is YouTube killing my channel, or have I fallen off? You guys will have to let me know down below in the comments section. With all that said, though, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, if you found it entertaining, educational, or enjoyable in any way whatsoever, then please consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It really helps a lot. I appreciate it. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more from me, and hit the hype button on this video to boost it in the algorithm if you've commented enough in the past that it's unlocked for you on my channel. I really do appreciate it. Comment down below. Miss Rachel is based. If you watched this far into the video and want to boost the video and let me know you saw this far, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope to see you in the next one.